You've done everything they told you to do. Set goals, take action, stay positive. But deep down, something still feels stuck. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you lack discipline. The truth is more subtle, more painful. And Hillman believed it's not your mind holding you back. It's your forgotten soul. In this video, we're not going to tell you to try harder. We're going to uncover the deeper reason you can't move forward and how to reconnect with the one part of you that's quietly asking to be seen. The invisible weight you carry. There's a kind of exhaustion no one talks about. It's not the tiredness that comes from working too much or sleeping too little. It's the kind that settles deep in your bones. The kind that follows you, even when you're doing everything right. You read the books. You try new routines. You tell yourself to be grateful. But still, something inside feels off. Like there's a fog between you and the life you're trying to live. It's easy to blame yourself. Maybe I'm just not trying hard enough. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe this is just who I am. But what if none of that is true? James Hillman believed that when we feel stuck, deeply stuck, the issue isn't psychological in the way we usually think. It's not just about mindset. It's not just trauma. It's not even about our past. Hillman said the real blockage is soul-related. He called it the loss of image. Not image as in reputation, but the inner image, the invisible blueprint of who you are meant to be. When we drift too far from this inner image, when we live a life that looks good on paper but feels empty inside, we begin to suffer in silence. And this suffering often shows up in confusing ways. You can't concentrate. You sabotage opportunities. You feel numb in relationships. You start projects with excitement and abandon them halfway through. You look around and think, why can't I move forward like everyone else? But here's the truth. What you're experiencing isn't failure. It's the soul resisting a path that doesn't belong to it. Hillman warned that the modern world teaches us to ignore this resistance. We're taught to push through, to optimize, to self-improve. But when you push through the wrong direction, all you do is get further from yourself. This is why modern strategies often fail to heal a deep sense of emptiness. They work on the surface, but the wound isn't on the surface. Think of it this way. If you're a seed meant to become a tree, no amount of productivity hacks will help if you're planted in the wrong soil. And most of us? We've been planted in the wrong soil for years. From childhood, we're told what to value. We're shaped by expectations. We're taught to follow models of success that never asked what our soul actually wants. So we end up achieving things that don't fulfill us. We become what the world applauds, and still feel like strangers in our own skin. This is not laziness. This is not failure. This is disconnection. And until we understand what we've been disconnected from, we'll keep trying to move forward with invisible chains around our ankles. So if you've been feeling stuck, empty, or like something essential is missing, don't rush to fix it. Instead, ask, what part of me did I leave behind on the path to becoming who I thought I had to be? Hillman believed the soul never stops calling, but it doesn't shout. It whispers. Through the restlessness, through the boredom, through the quiet ache you carry. This video is not about blaming yourself. It's about finally listening, because the reason you can't move forward isn't what you think. And once you see what's really holding you back, the path ahead doesn't just change, it finally makes sense. Why the success path doesn't work for everyone. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. You've done everything they told you to do. You followed the blueprint. Set goals. Think positive. Be productive. Ignore your feelings. Push through the discomfort. You tried to silence your doubts. You put your head down and kept going, hoping that one day it would all just click, that something would finally feel right. But here you are, still stuck, still empty, still wondering if something's wrong with you. You're not alone. And no, you're not broken. You're just human in a world that doesn't know what to do with souls. James Hillman argued that our culture is obsessed with upward motion, progress, growth, success. But the soul? The soul doesn't move in straight lines. It spirals, it deepens, it retreats and returns. And when we try to force the soul to fit into society's checklist of achievement, we lose the very thing that makes us feel alive. Think about it. The world praises you for being high-functioning, but doesn't ask if you feel hollow inside. You get rewarded for doing more, even if you've lost your joy. You're told to keep going, but never asked if you're going in the right direction. This is where the silent crisis begins. You might be successful, but not fulfilled. Busy, but bored. Social, but lonely. Smiling, but secretly grieving a part of yourself you can't even name. Hillman called this the flattening of the soul, a state where life becomes all about surface, tasks, roles, routines. But there's no depth, no image, no myth guiding you from within. And without that inner myth, life starts to feel mechanical. You wake up, you perform, you distract yourself, you survive. But deep down, you know something's missing. That something is you. Not the you the world trained. Not the you that knows how to please, perform, or pretend. The real you. The one that had dreams before they were labeled unrealistic. The one that used to feel deeply before it was told to toughen up. Hillman believed we all come into this world with a seed, a unique pattern, purpose, and presence. But that seed needs the right conditions to grow. When those conditions are denied, when our environments reward conformity and punish sensitivity, we begin to shrink ourselves. We adapt, we survive, but the soul goes underground. And when it stays underground for too long, it starts to protest. Not with rage, but with silence, with numbness, with resistance that looks like procrastination, fatigue, or indifference. That's not laziness. It's the soul saying, "This is not my path." So when you feel stuck and nothing seems to work, pause. Stop trying to force progress on a path that's not yours. Because true movement doesn't always look like forward motion. Sometimes the soul needs to turn inward, to remember, to reclaim. You don't need more motivation. You need reconnection. Reconnection to the image you lost, to the part of you that was never meant to be sacrificed for survival. And here's the beautiful and painful truth. The reason you feel like you're falling behind may be because you've outgrown the life you were told to want. This is not the end. This is the turning point. An engine. What your stuckness is trying to tell you. What if the very thing you're trying to escape is the key to your healing? What if your resistance, your lack of motivation, your constant inner fog, aren't signs of failure, but signs that your soul is tired of pretending? James Hillman often said that the soul doesn't want to be fixed. It wants to be witnessed. He believed that symptoms, anxiety, depression, even feeling stuck, aren't problems to eliminate. They're messages to understand. You feel stuck, not because you're weak, but because something inside you refuses to keep going in the wrong direction. The question isn't, how do I push through this? It's, what part of me is speaking through this stillness? Because when the soul wants to be heard, it won't shout. It whispers through discomfort. It shows up as confusion. It makes you forget your goals, not to sabotage you, but to save you from goals that don't belong to you. Let that sink in. Not every dream you chase is yours. Not every life path you admire is meant for you. Not every version of success will bring peace. Sometimes the soul slows you down, to return you to yourself. But in a culture obsessed with momentum, we treat slowing down as failure. We label stillness as laziness. We call emptiness depression. And yes, sometimes it is. But sometimes it's also a doorway, a threshold, an invitation to go deeper instead of further. This is the part where most people quit, because going deeper means facing truths we've buried. It means asking, who am I when I'm not achieving? What do I want when I'm not trying to impress? What hurts when I finally sit with myself? These aren't easy questions, they're sacred ones. And your stuckness? It's begging you to start listening. You might feel like nothing's happening right now, but that's not true. Under the surface, something is unraveling. Old identities are cracking. False desires are dying. Your soul is reorienting itself. Not around who the world wants you to be, but around who you truly are. It's a painful process, but it's also the beginning of freedom. You are not lost. You are in the middle of a transformation. And that means some parts of you have to go silent before new parts can awaken. This is what Hillman called soul work. It doesn't always look impressive. It doesn't always feel good, but it's real. It's the quiet moment you realize you're tired of pretending. It's the late-night thought, this can't be all there is. It's the ache you feel when you laugh at something meaningless and wonder why it doesn't feel like joy. These are not breakdowns. They're breakthroughs in disguise. You don't need to force yourself to keep climbing a ladder that leads to nowhere. You need to find the ground beneath you again. The ground of truth. The ground of soul. The place where you stop performing and start remembering. Remembering what? That you were never meant to be a machine. That your worth isn't measured by productivity. That being lost can be a sacred detour, not a personal failure. So take a breath. Let yourself be exactly where you are. Not because you're giving up, but because you're finally giving in to the truth you've been avoiding. That the path forward might just begin with standing still. The myth you forgot you were living. Let's go even deeper. James Hillman believed that each of us is born with a unique myth, a deep story the soul carries long before we learn how to speak. It's not something you invent, it's something you uncover. But here's what often happens. As children, we feel that myth. We dream freely. We imagine wildly. We act in ways that feel completely true, because we haven't yet been told who we're supposed to be. Then comes the world. Expectations. Praise when we conform. Rejection when we don't. And little by little we abandon the original myth of our soul in favor of a socially acceptable script. We pursue careers that earn approval. We shrink ourselves to fit relationships. We say yes when everything inside us screams no. Until one day, the disconnect becomes unbearable. That's the stuckness you're feeling. It's not laziness. It's your soul grieving the distance between your life and your myth. Because even if you've been successful by external standards, you can still feel painfully lost inside. And that loss isn't about direction, it's about connection. You've lost connection with the story you were meant to live. Hillman said that symptoms are expressions of the soul's forgotten myth. That's why anxiety often spikes when you're doing something that looks right on paper but feels wrong in your body. That's why burnout doesn't always come from working too much, but from working against your nature. So ask yourself, when did I start performing instead of being? What parts of me have I silenced just to be accepted? What dream did I leave behind because someone else told me it wasn't practical? These aren't just nostalgic questions. They're invitations. Invitations to return to your myth, to stop treating life like a series of checkboxes, and start seeing it as a sacred unfolding. Because here's the truth. No amount of hustle will fulfill a purpose that doesn't belong to you. No external success can make up for internal disconnection. You were not meant to follow someone else's map. You were meant to listen to the internal compass you abandoned a long time ago. And here's the wild part. That compass never broke. It's just been buried under noise. buried under expectations, buried under people-pleasing, buried under shame, fear, and the belief that your deepest self isn't enough. But it is enough. It always was. The real tragedy isn't being lost. It's convincing yourself that being lost means you're failing, when in reality, it may be the first honest step back home, back to your values, back to your voice, back to your myth. And once you begin reconnecting with that myth, even if you don't have a plan, even if the path ahead is uncertain, you'll feel something shift. Not dramatically, not overnight, but quietly, like a flicker of light in a dark room, a sense that maybe, just maybe, you're allowed to live differently, not faster, not louder, but deeper. That is the promise of the myth you forgot. Not a perfect life, but a meaningful one. Not constant clarity, but sacred direction. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's more than enough. Because when you start honoring the myth within you, you stop needing to chase purpose, and you start becoming it. Reconnecting with the soul's path. If you've made it this far, it's because something in you knows. You're not broken. You're just disconnected from the truth of who you are. And that disconnection, it's not a character flaw. It's a symptom of living in a world that teaches us to survive, but rarely teaches us to remember. To remember our inner calling, to remember the myth we were meant to live, to remember that life isn't supposed to feel this empty. So let's talk about what it really means to move forward. It doesn't start with a 5-year plan. It doesn't require clarity on your life's purpose by tomorrow. It doesn't need to be grand, impressive, or Instagram-worthy. It starts with listening. Listening to the quiet discomfort you've been numbing. Listening to the sadness that shows up when you silence yourself. Listening to the strange longings, the old dreams, the irrational pull towards something you can't quite name. That's your soul speaking. And it doesn't care about logic. It speaks in symbols, in images, in ache. It doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. James Hillman believed the soul doesn't want to be fixed. It wants to be seen, felt, honored. So instead of forcing yourself forward, what if you paused? What if you created space to feel what's been buried? Here's what that might look like. Saying no to one more obligation that drains you. Returning to something that once gave you joy, even if it makes no sense. Writing down the stories you tell yourself, and questioning if they're even yours. Letting yourself cry without apologizing. Letting yourself dream without asking for permission. These aren't surface-level acts. They are rituals of remembrance. They reconnect you with the myth beneath your anxiety. The one that says, you were never meant to be a machine. You don't have to earn your right to feel alive. You're allowed to walk away from the life that numbed you. You're allowed to redefine progress. Maybe moving forward isn't about speed. Maybe it's about depth. Maybe the real movement is inward. A return to your original nature. A conversation with the forgotten parts of you. A moment of truth with the voice you buried just to belong. And in that stillness, something shifts. You stop obsessing over outcomes. You stop measuring your worth by productivity. You stop believing that your pain makes you weak. You begin to see that your pain is wise, that your anxiety has a message, that your confusion is sacred. And slowly, the fog begins to lift. You feel your feet on the ground again. You breathe more deeply. You smile. Not because life is suddenly perfect, but because it's finally yours. That's when you start to move. Not towards someone else's version of success, but towards something more real. A life of alignment. A life of depth. A life where your inner myth leads, not your fear. So if you feel stuck, this is not the end. It's a threshold. A soul-level invitation to come home to yourself. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to explain your pain. You just need to stay with it. long enough to hear what it's been trying to tell you. Because underneath the noise, the guilt, the expectations, is a life that still wants to be lived through you. Your life, not the one you were told to live, not the one others expect from you, the one that's uniquely, wildly, soulfully yours. The myth is still alive. It never left. It's waiting, not for the perfect version of you, but for the real one.